Welcome to In the Green Room. I'm Kinga.
And I'm Chet, and today we have Puka replacing both Martin and Richard.
And we have the Pearl.
Hello.
Welcome back.
We have the Pearl.
Great to be back again.
It's been a while. I'm trying to think how long it's been since you've been within the green room. It's been over a year.
Well, a month ago.
Yeah, you weren't here, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. So I missed your last little reunion show then.
Yes. But before that, it had been a while. But
you were out of town, so.
Yeah, but it's great to be here. And I'm excited for today's show.
She was here for years and years, and here she's finally back again.
Well,
so.
Why don't you introduce our guests then?
So we are here today talking about dogs, and we're super excited to have the world famous dog trainer, Leighton. Can you introduce yourself? I don't want to butcher your last name.
No, that's okay. You would be the first. So my name's Leighton. My last name's Oosthuisen. I'm with a dog training school and pet resort called Partners Dog Training. And with me is Sarah.
Sarah, happy birthday.
Hello,
Welcome to the studio.
I'm Sarah, thank you.
My better half that gave up her birthday day to come and play.
Happy birthday, Sarah. It's her birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank
Happy
you.
birthday. And can we introduce Puka?
Do you want me to hold her up right now? I'll grab her.
Yes, why don't you hold her up a second?
What's going on?
Oh, she's on camera.
There's the
She's
Puka.
on the mic.
Oh, it's like, smile at the camera.
Golden lap dog.
So Leighton, what do you think about Puka? Her behavior, you saw just a little glimpse of it.
So
far.
she's a beautiful retriever, and we really learned the first thing. Never put a microphone in front of the dog's face, because to them that soft little microphone,
It's a chew toy.
Yeah, I was doing a show once, and my dog was there, and the presenter said, "So what's your dog thing?" And she went wham and put the microphone, and then he just took it right out of her hand. It's like, I thought it was a toy, but anyway, she's beautiful, and she's about 15 months, I think you said, right?
Yes, exactly.
And little lap dog. Chet obviously likes his lap dogs.
Well, what's her birthday in October? I thought.
September.
Okay, so September. Okay, so maybe
September 19th, so she'll be 15 months.
In
December
December.
19th.
Oh, okay.
So it's actually great. That's actually an important thing, because it's a great time to be putting some work into training.
Yeah.
You can start training dogs at 6 months of age, and there's some people that start even earlier than that. You just got to be really gentle if you start young. But this is a good age. This is kind of like the teenage phase for them. We often, probably 80% of the dogs that come through our facility are 18 months, roughly, give or take 15 to 18 months of age. That's when they start exploring, experimenting, and it's a great time for them.
Mm-hmm. Definitely a high energy time, so it's a good time to focus on obedience.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you didn't want a high energy dog, you should have got something else other than a golden retriever. But
Well, I actually run every day through the mountains, and so that's why I was like, I want a dog that can run with me and will love that. And Goldens love to run. So I actually took her on about a 1.2 mile run right before I brought her here. So.
and you were hoping she was going to be calmer, right?
Oh, I would have had to double that distance to make her calm. I just wanted her to not be bouncing off the walls, you know.
Right.
And that's one thing I've also learned, is that it's so important while your dog is a puppy and in this kind of like adolescent phase, you have to take them on those walks every day.
Right.
If I have a really busy day and I don't get to it, she's bouncing off the walls. So it's definitely been a learning experience that, have to take her on those walks.
Well, something that Leighton was emphasizing is consistency is key.
Sit.
So Leighton, will you give us a little bit of your background so people know who you are?
Sure.
And how you got to this level? And I know you have
Okay,
trained many dogs that are in the movies. And
military
yes.
dogs.
Yep.
We were reading.
Yes.
So I've had
Yes.
I have an interesting past, and it's interesting because each one of those different things has fed me to where I am today. You know, we always say it doesn't matter what we go through. You know, childhood and experiences, it all makes us who we are, and hopefully it makes us better. But I grew up on a ranch in South Africa with my parents. We had a big farm, and I really didn't have many friends. There just weren't people there. You know, we were on our own, and my dad's staff had kids, and I got to know them obviously. But most of my time was spent with dogs and with all sorts of other creatures. I had horses as well, and I learned basically how to train by experimentation, which is actually not a bad way to go. You know, you just got to pay attention to detail. In fact, I was commenting with Chet just now that he's analytical, and that's probably one of the most important things we look at in training. So anyway, that was the farm life, and then we moved to the city after that, and I trained at a club for a while, and then
At what age were you at this point?
oh gosh, about 10, 12, something like that. Started
Okay.
spending more time. My parents had a house in the city, and then obviously on the farm as well, but we started spending more time in the city. And
What did your parents do?
my dad was a pilot and also an executive in the advertising world. So he was Air Force originally, and then he started flying charter, and he met somebody through flying charter for this particular guy, and the two of them hit it off, and then he started flying for that guy and then getting involved in the company, and they owned this particular farm that we moved to as well. So it was really a whole bunch of different things, and it gave us exposure. So I've been flying airplanes since I was about 12 years old. Never
How
got my
exciting.
license, but anyway.
That's exciting. Wow.
And my brothers are both, well, my one brother, Andre, he became a pilot in the Air Force as well, kind of followed in Dad's footsteps. But I went in the animal direction and got involved, just did a whole bunch of different things. I got involved with training dogs with a friend of mine in agility, dog jumping as we call it now, and then I got into the military and started training detection dogs that were trained to find
You
explosives.
did that?
Yeah,
I did not know that part.
Well, I had saw that, and
Wow.
we were just doing a little bit of study on your bio, and I was very curious to see what that was about. So wow.
Yep. So training dogs basically just for different tasks: tracking, search and rescue. Bomb detection is really cool because it obviously is training a dog to work, and if that dog makes a mistake, there's a significant consequence.
Right.
Fortunately, here in the States, we don't have a lot of those types of things where the dogs are actually finding explosives. But when we were in the Army, we were finding bomb probably on average once every 2 weeks. So
It's fascinating that dogs are so sensitive and able to find an explosive.
But how are they?
Well, and they
able to? I
haven't
don't
developed
understand.
other technology that's better than that. That's incredible.
Because
That
their
is
sense of
incredible.
smell
And
is
there are still
so...
times where dogs outperform technology. I did a thing many years ago with Southwest Airlines where we looked into training dogs to search luggage, because at that time there was need, but it just was practically impossible to do it with the amount of pieces that they had going through. So technology is better for that, but you can't pack up a machine and move it out to go and look at something. They've got to take x-rays, they've got to bring in the bomb squad, whereas you can just walk over there with a dog. And dogs are really good at picking up odor. So you asked, how do you train that? It's really just a task for the dog. It's like fetching a ball. They have no real interest in what you're actually searching for, whether it be explosives or drugs, or there's dogs that are trained to find certain types of like fruits and things like that. It's just
Or like pigs are trained to find the truffles.
that's right. Pigs train truffles in Europe and so on. And in actual fact, they used to use pigs at Heathrow Airport, which would be really cool. You walk through
Really?
Heathrow on the
Really?
way to a flight,
Interesting.
and he'd be this 300-pound
Security
pig, security pig.
All of a sudden, you're craving bacon.
That was quite funny, but yeah, they're amazing at that. They don't really care. They're just looking for an odor, and for that odor, they get
So
rewarded.
you give them the scent, and then you give them a reward, and
Right.
then they.
Start off with food.
Okay.
So we hide. So we basically hide their food for them in a location where they've got to go find it. And once they find the food, then obviously they get to eat it. And then you match the food with an odor, and then eventually you take the odor away. You leave the odor there. You take the food away, and then the dog learns when he finds that odor, he gives you an alert, which is normally a sit or a down. In the old days, we used to use an aggressive alert where the dog would actually scratch at something. We've gone away from that because you don't really want him scratching at an explosive because it might go off. And in actual fact, in Europe, there was a time with the IRA and with the British police where they had triggers in the bombs and they would actually blow up the search team. So we've moved away from that. I know it's pretty mortifying, but
Oh,
anyways,
it's so scary. Oh my goodness.
and then we use different, like the Air Force here uses boxes. They put little boxes out and they hide something in box number 1, but there's like 2 boxes to start, then 3, then 4, then 5, etc. And they also train them. They don't trust when the new handler comes along. So, Chet, if you had to join up and want to train with them, they're not going to give you their $50,000 bomb dog.
Yeah.
They give you a box with a leash attached to it. And you've got to train for the first couple of weeks with this box. And as crazy as it sounds, actually a really good way to train, It's without harming the dog. Kind of like with
So
you just
many
now where I took the
questions.
leash off the dog and showed you how to handle the leash. That way you're not training the dog in something that's wrong. You're keeping all the good stuff for the dog.
It's important. Those little details make a big difference in the training process. So if anybody out there is listening and you're having trouble with training your dog, really you should seek professional help. We were talking earlier, a lot of people let their ego get in the way and then they never seek a trainer and then their dog ends up, very disobedient, and then all of a sudden it's a nightmare, and then it's
Yep.
harder to train the dog. So you're better off seeking help and, having a well-trained dog from a young age.
How do they find you, Leighton?
I was just gonna say, for a person who has been the opposite on the other end of not a well-trained dog, please go for it.
So Partners Dogs is our website, PARTNERS.DOGS. And we do all sorts of things. We do daycare, we do behavioral training, we do dogs that come in. We've actually got a new program which has just got going, where instead of just daycare being where the dog drops off in the morning and spends the day with us, they're actually doing enrichment exercises now. So exactly what I was showing you with your dog, you do exercises like heel work and sits and stays, and they learn to work in this group environment. And we basically are taking what happens in schools. If you send your kid off to school, the teacher says to the kids, okay, line up outside the classroom, and so we'll have dogs that'll come in, and we'll literally do those kinds of things, and it's great. It's
the dog owner is not there then?
Nope, dog owner drops the dog, and they go off to work, and we do all the training. And when the dog goes home, the dog's tired. We get owners that'll call us and say, geez, what'd you do with our dog today? My dog came home and slept. I'm like, yep, that's what I want to hear.
I will say I'm already having good results with that first tip he gave me of doing like the kind of firm tug. Because that way it notifies her, what I'm doing right now I should not be doing.
Right.
Is effective.
And to explain that to your listeners and viewers, so what was happening is that she was loading up the leash. So she was driving, wanted to get to mom or wanted to get wherever. And I said, no, relax the leash. And when she tries to pull, just give a little tug on it. Yeah. So we're always careful when we say tug. We don't want you to jerk back on the dog, right?
You don't want to hurt her neck. Yeah.
Definitely don't want to hurt the dog.
Tug.
Just a tiny little tug. And then as you tug on her, you just give her a gentle correction. So soft correction would be like, something like that. Just like that's not... it's kind of like when he was a kid and he did something wrong. You didn't have to hit him over the head with a baseball bat.
The way you guys used to backhand me.
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
It's like just like, hey, that's not okay,
That's coming out.
That was a joke. Come on.
Did I bring up something?
Oh no, I jokingly said like when they used to backhand me, but I was being sarcastic.
Hey, that happens.
She didn't pick it up though at all.
So it's, in other words, it's just basically teaching the dog to read. And then the other thing which you want to really pay attention to is your timing. So the moment the dog does something,
Chet, listen to this. This is very important.
Yeah, we're going to actually play a little game with Chet. So
good. Okay,
so
good.
Let's say, for instance, I said to you, okay, I want you to take my phone. Nope. Okay, why didn't you take it?
Because you said no.
I didn't say not to take the phone. You assumed that no meant stop doing what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Do you agree? So I stopped the behavior, which was you reaching for the phone, right?
So now you want it?
I didn't tell you to take it. So what I did now is I lured you into it. I offered it and I lured you. So let's put that in dog speak, right? So the first one is the moment the dog does something wrong, I want you to say either no or So no, we normally reserve for when the dog's doing something disobedient. They know it's not appropriate. No, don't do that. Means basically just soft corrections, like don't like that. So if I'd done that with you and I put your hand out, so as you reach out for it, I go you feel that's just as strong, right?
Yeah.
I don't really have to grab you or shove you or hit you or anything like that. It's basically just an indicator, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you, however, decide I'm going to grab it away from you, then I have to be ready for that. And that's where you have to get into more of the behavior
Which
training.
is how your mom responded earlier.
Yeah, which your mom was like,
Second time she So that's different
You reacted
personalities.
very kind.
So that's where you see your mom's true personality come out.
Once she wants that phone, she's grabbing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, hookah, sit.
Actually, that time I was using the menu, the wine menu. So
Yeah.
maybe it's that,
That's what it
Oh, if you used the wine bottle, she might have lost a hand.
Yes.
Sit.
Well, so it's interesting because that dog doesn't understand what you're trying to convey to them.
Right. They
And that's what
understand
he's trying-
timing.
So, Chet, do you understand what he's trying to show to you?
Yeah.
That she doesn't really know what you're trying to say.
No, she understands certain commands. She understands sit, stay, down, no. She knows shake. But the main problem with her obedience right now is when she has distractions, when people come over. And so your dog is not well trained if they aren't obedient in all settings.
But there's always going to be distractions.
Right.
Exactly why she's not well trained unless she'll listen in all settings, which she isn't right now. So
Which is
that's
very
why I'm like, I do need help.
Well, and this is something that Leighton was talking about, how the whole entire family has to be on the same page,
Right.
Yes.
right? When it comes to
Sit.
pet, and you were
Right.
talking about how sometimes you have to separate
Sit.
spouses to get that going, or you were talking with Kinga and Chet and Rachel and saying how they treat one another is just as critical as how they're treating Puka.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely,
You don't
yes.
want one spouse, or you don't want Chad criticizing his mom in front of the dog was saying, "Mom, don't do that," because that tone, the dog will pick up on being, okay, well, I don't have to listen to your mom because she's no longer important. But likewise, your foundation, which is really what you're referring to. So what makes a dog listen under distraction? In other words, when there is a temptation out there. We use a bunch of analogies when we teach people, but the one that probably would matter to you is like, you're driving the road and you're driving a car that's nice and it's got really high performance, right? What do you drive?
A Porsche.
Yeah, there we go. I kind of figured you'd be in that just based on your personality, right?
Thanks.
So you're driving down the road, you know the speed limit's 50, and there's nobody around, maybe it's like late at night, then maybe you're going to push it 60, 70, right?
Yeah.
Maybe
Oh,
80,
yeah.
it's on the
I mean,
freeway,
yeah.
the 101. So what keeps you from going fast? There's a consequence.
Criminal speeding tickets.
Yeah, exactly. And what
I wish
chance-
there was the Autobahn out here, but
and what
Right?
chance do you have talking your way out of it driving a Porsche?
not a high chance.
Porsche.
Sit,
Sorry,
Hookah,
Porsche. Oh,
sit.
okay, you're right. And now the next thing is, what color is your Porsche?
White.
White. Okay.
And
So
gold.
that's-
He's a gold one too.
Okay.
So
Cool.
that's
We'll talk
also
about
an
the white one.
indicator, right? Because
Yes,
that's
too.
your personality. So
Sit.
some people go for certain types of cars, red being one of them.
Well, Chet is a
And-
music producer and a DJ, and he has a song called Gold Porsche or something.
Yeah, I do.
Yes.
We don't need to get into that right now, though.
No, we
Well,
talk about
Sit.
that.
He performed
Sit.
actually. Let's see, not last night, but the night
Stay.
before, and he killed it. It was amazing.
Very cool.
He released
Nice.
some new music, and it was just incredible. Yeah.
So that
Stay.
would be an example of drive, right? The adrenaline from that, from the show, from the performance, right? So now the reason we're bringing that up here is because that's your drive that is exceeding the amount of control you have. So if I said to your dog right now,
Sit.
if I said to her, if I took a tennis ball, threw it across the room, you would have great difficulty controlling her at that point.
Well, we actually have a good example
That's a
happening
good-
in
that's a
live
good
in real
question.
time right now. Gabe, our producer, she wants to go say hi to him really bad right now, and he is distracting her.
Right.
So we have a
this is-
distraction happening in live time.
This is where consequence
So
matters.
what can you show
So
us? How
this
do
is
we
your-
correct it?
Well, he's doing exactly what he has to do. So you're not giving permission for her to go over and say hi, right? You
Yeah.
said like no.
Yeah.
So therefore,
Well, I
you're
let her go over to say hi so that she would, get it out of her system, and now
Good.
now she is still
she's
trying to
gone
go
back
over.
there.
Yeah.
And that's because you're playing a human right now. You said, okay, go get it out of your system. Well, that's a human response.
Mm-hmm.
To the dog, you've got to decide like, are you going to allow it or not? And if you're not going to allow it, which is what I would recommend,
Stay.
then you're going to enforce that. You're going to reinforce it every time.
How?
The problem is your foundation is poor. Now, it's not me judging you
Right.
or criticizing. You need to go and work on foundation. Your foundation is about 75% based on your leash. I want 75% based on you. The leash should be 10, 15%. So going to a class, teaching a dog a pattern would be the same thing as when you got your Porsche, getting in and learning to drive. You know, I got to pay attention to detail.
Well, one
That's
question
smart.
I have
That's smart,
about
yes.
basically unlearning a bad habit is that basically right now the only way she really listens to my verbal commands is if I raise my voice
Right.
to a high level, and then I don't need the leash, but I don't want to be screaming like a maniac in public at my dog.
No.
So
Yeah, I said to him-
basically have to unteach her to only listen to me when I'm screaming as far as discipline goes. And it basically came to that point because she's very high energy and will get so sucked into a distraction, she wouldn't hear me unless I would be like, Puka, stop, at a very high volume.
And I
And
said
so
to
now
Chet, I heard
she's
him talk
kind of-
like that, and I said, Chet, you can't do that because if
It's
you're
unsustainable.
if
I
your
don't want to be
girlfriend
screaming at her all the
is
time.
over, she'll be
yeah.
like, oh my God, he's being mean to the dog.
Right.
And not only that,
Who
the
is
dog
this
will
guy?
develop resistance to your loud voice. Eventually, it's not loud enough.
Yeah.
And a lot of people experience that with equipment that they use. They'll get
Like your leash. If
Yeah,
you-
eventually she'll be like, I don't care how hard you pull on the leash, I don't care. I mean, she's the one choking herself, not you. There's
Oh,
not-
she's like that when I walk her on the leash.
correct.
She's just pulling
so
and pulling.
the trick is to go back to your foundation, building foundation. And there's a really easy way to look at this. What makes you sit here and pay attention? You could be like paying attention to your phone. Like if your phone rings, are you going to pick it up right now? No,
No.
because you're working.
Yeah.
But what makes you realize that? Teaching, education, training. Your mom, other people, your own experience in life, etc. You got to do the same thing with your dog. She's got to learn the foundation is what controls me, not how loud you are or how forceful you are, etc. I mean, imagine if you were a 6-year-old little girl trying to control her golden retriever. She doesn't have the strength you have.
Yeah.
So we have to teach those kids foundation. Heel work, we always start off with heel work. Make the dog walk at your side. And in a case like with a child, we'll have an adult or a trainer helping them out. Or the trainer will teach the behavior first. That's what I really prefer. We take the dog stays with us, they go through all the training, and then we give them back to you, and then we teach you how to work with the dog, right? That's by far the best. that's because the staff are not personal about your dog. You have a lot of personal feelings. If I pick on your dog, you know, and you're like, oh, that's my baby, like, you know, leave her alone. We don't have that feeling.
See, I like constructive criticism because I want her to be the best dog possible. But that's the one way she's actually very well trained right now is as far as walking and on the leash and heel training. But that also goes out the window as soon as we're walking with more than like 2 people. She'll just totally forget her training. So it's all right now with her a matter of distractions.
So if you're walking with Megan, is she good?
Yeah, if it's just the 2 of us, she's great on the leash. But if Rachel and Evie tried to join, then she'd probably start acting crazy. If there's more than one person with us, she starts to just get more and more energetic.
So that's like you pulling up at a traffic light and a guy rolls up alongside you with another Porsche.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Okay, so now you're like, okay, like, do I want to risk not any speed?
Now I want to risk it.
Yeah, but now if they get you, it's going to be, what is it? It's expression of speech or racing or something like that.
Yeah.
Much more significant.
Oh, yeah.
And you know that, but you're still tempted, right?
Yeah.
Because you're young.
It's going to be fun, yeah.
Exactly.
Wait,
So,
what's it called?
so that's drive. That's the drive coming into your dog. And
So I have a question for a non-dog person. When you talk about
You're the
foundations-
perfect person to be here today because
Yeah.
she's somebody that's a little bit timid of dogs. She's had bad experiences with dogs, and she doesn't want dogs jumping on her. So, Chet, let's say that Pearl comes to the house.
Wait,
and-
let me ask my question.
Okay, she's gonna ask a question. Yay, yay.
You don't want her to ask
Yeah.
it for you? No.
You've been talking about you have to have the foundations, and I'm thinking, what does that mean? Like, what are foundational things when it comes to training a dog?
Good
Good
question.
question.
Great
so
question.
I like using analogies because analogies work better. So what makes the kid that walks into a classroom go sit down in their seat? Repetition. Somebody demonstrating it ahead of time, right? We use video demonstrations a lot for our clients because video is it's an easy thing. I had a situation the other day where somebody described a car accident to me, and I literally didn't understand what they were saying, and then all of a sudden it kind of clicked, and I realized, man, you would have been so better off if you'd actually showed me a visual representation. So for dogs, we want you to see visually what it is. We want the dog to walk at your left side, and to be honest, I don't care what side a dog walks on. You know, we train our dogs to walk on the left in the US.
Why left?
That's actually one of the stories we don't have the answer to. We think it's
Okay.
based on generations, hundreds of years ago, where horses walked on the right and a dog walked on the left. But,
Okay.
but we don't really. And there are countries like in Belgium, they sometimes train dogs to walk on the right side.
Wait, do we finish answering Pearl's foundational?
Good question.
Foundation.
Yeah, that's always the
question?
problem. It's like I'll go off in a tangent.
That's why
It's
he
like,
brought me. I
Yeah.
should like get
So-
him back.
Yeah.
So foundation, that foundation of walking at heel, and like the kids think, what teaches that child to sit in that chair? Repetition, practice, repetition, consequence. There has to always
So
be a
walking
consequence.
is a foundation, like by
Absolutely.
your side. So
Yep.
what's another?
Stopping and sitting,
Okay.
making a dog lay down.
Okay.
So we have heel, which is obviously walking in this context. Sit.
I'm glad
Pretty
you
basic.
clarified that because heel did not mean that in my head. So
What did heel mean to you?
it meant stop, sitting at
Okay.
your side, heel.
So heel could also mean run at my side.
Okay, so
Heel-
heel means walking on your side?
It could be that, or it could be come to my heel. So if my dog's running around, so this would be something you were mentioning that with her, she doesn't come to you when you call her. The reason she doesn't come to you is because her foundation is still poor, which is fine. That's what training is for, and she's at the perfect age for that.
Well,
And
it's
then
not all the time
secondly-
that she doesn't come to me. When she's getting the zoomies,
Correct. Well,
when
that's
she's
drive.
running and running and running, going crazy, and I have to leave and I have to go, and then I call her, she won't come. I have to go get Chad.
Right.
And
So you're trying to run a marathon before you've learned how to be fit enough to do the first few steps, right? You're going to hurt the next day, correct? So with her zoomies is just the expression of her drive and excitement and everything like that. It's very
is that
hard.
normal with a dog? Do all dogs do that?
It's normal with some
Most
dogs.
dogs do,
You know,
yes.
Well,
most dogs do.
I think that you also have just not been stern with disciplining her at any point. So I really think that she views you as a play friend. I don't really think she views you as an alpha that can
That's
control
true.
her.
I think
So
that's
that's
true.
why she doesn't come when you call her. Because she comes about 95% of the time if I come to the door and say, Puka, come. That's because she views me as, being the boss.
Would you
So
agree with
I think
that?
you need to
Sure.
transform how she views you.
And you've also worked with her a lot more than your mom has.
Yeah.
So
True.
she respects you in a different way than Her.
Well, yeah, she tries
Amazing.
to be like the cool like grandparent
Yeah.
and just
I
give
was
her
just gonna
treats
say,
and play with
one
her.
day when you have kids, and she's the grandparent, you'll understand this way
Oh,
better.
yeah.
But right
You'll
now,
know.
your mom is kind of like, well,
I'm the
she's
granny.
sitting playing.
Yeah.
You're the granny.
I'm the
She
granny.
doesn't really have to listen.
Yeah.
Call me Granny.
But it's not difficult to change that dynamic. And I want to go back to one thing. So we don't use the word alpha very much in training anymore.
Okay.
Because some
Why?
people would see alpha as being like, I have to be the all-empowering, dominant thing. And there are certain breeds, like for instance my Belgian Malinois, where you're never really their alpha because that dog can light you up just as quick. Lots of law enforcement and people have found that out the hard way.
Oh, he has this dog where he says one word or one sound, and it goes ballistic and tries to like eat your arm.
Yeah, those are the most common used dogs in law enforcement,
Protection.
right?
See, that
Yeah.
scares me when you say that because I'm like, that
Sounds
sounded
so
like he's out of
bad.
control. So it's a trained behavior. He doesn't care who you are. It's trained to look after you, protect you, right? Which is what we want. But yes, and this is something that's important as well because, you look at this dog who's
Sit.
got a great personality, very gentle, very
Puka.
affectionate.
Sit.
You can use training to teach her, but if you had to take a dog that had some aggressive responses, that would be different. So back to your foundation. So the training of that dog is slightly different to the training of Puka because
How
Puka,
so? How so?
well, because putting a leash on her and maybe giving her a correctional leash, it does not trigger an aggressive response. Whereas there are dogs that have learned how to use aggression to control their environment, so therefore they've been biting people. If you put a leash on that dog, give dog correction, dogs can turn around and take your face off. So we have to train them differently and more under control and with more tools in place. So foundation is not always the same. And to go back to the commands that we were talking about.
And that is one thing people should keep in mind. Rescuing dogs is amazing, but you should be prepared that you're going to have to spend more time on training because
Sure.
they have
Absolutely,
probably gone through
yes.
more traumatic things.
But yet
It's something.
here,
Well, no, I just have seen many people go and rescue a dog and then return to the pound within 6 months because they weren't expecting all the work it's going to take training a dog that's been through that experience. Something that people need to prepare for and
Well, I mean,
take them to a professional trainer.
we talk
That's a
about
good
the
point.
analogy of children, right? And so you think of a child that's gone through the foster care system where they have to get a lot more therapy
okay.
and a lot more help
Sit.
just because they've gone through a lot more trauma. So I think about
Good point.
rescuing a dog. You should have that expectation that this dog is going to need a lot more help and a lot more gentleness and love and training because they've gone through a lot more trauma.
And I'm going to bring up something which
I love that.
obviously
It's
I
true.
wouldn't name the people, but I have a client that was talking to me one day about kids like you just talked about now that had grown up in a foster system, and this particular child said he talked back to this one guy, and the guy's like, well, yeah, I'll just beat his ass for that, and
Are you allowed to cuss?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can
yeah.
cuss on
Oh,
here.
they cuss all the time. I listen to one of these
Yeah.
shows and everything.
Yeah,
But
yes, we
the social worker
Yeah.
said, well, just understand, this kid has been beaten up so many times in his life that he wouldn't even care if you beat him up because it's like nothing. And that's the same with dogs. If you have dogs that have been beat up by people, trying to control the dog, that dog is not going to care about the correction. So we have to use different techniques. And we use food for the most part. Food is a very good balancer.
did you hear that? Use food.
Yeah, so you use treats. You talked about
Yes,
treats in the
yes.
beginning. So look at it this way: food is a low value reward, and a treat is a high value reward. So if your dog didn't hit the lottery, we don't want to use a treat to reward them for something, right?
Like food being their normal kibble, what they would have for breakfast
So-
or dinner.
So train them when they're hungry, is what you're
Yep,
saying?
that's also a
Absolutely,
good
or make
point.
them hungry. So
Yeah.
a hungry dog works way better than a dog that's just had a nice fat meal.
Yeah.
Same with people.
I was going to say, think about you.
Yeah.
If you're telling me I have to do all this to get to lunch, guess what? I'm going to do all this to get to lunch.
Yeah.
And you could test that theory. Just don't pay somebody for a week and watch how fast they work a lot harder after that, And people that are in sales understand that theory. Well, same thing with dogs. So we joke with people like we'll put a little sign out, say, we'll work for food kind of thing. But a lot of times for clients, we'll tell them like, don't feed your dog a bowl of food and then try to train them. Take that bowl and use that bowl in the training of your dog. And we do that all day. Every dog in the morning, the techs make up each dog's food. We'll train 200 to 250 dogs a day at our facility. So each dog has a little paper plate. You know why they have paper plates? So they can't eat the metal plates, and then that way the hygiene is perfect because they're just little paper plates. They're little hot dog plates.
Oh, that's so smart.
We have the staff make a sticker applies to the dog. You take the dog's food, you train him with that food.
So I have had great results with treat training her, but what should I do in this type of a situation? I ran out of treats 2 days ago and I had a show, so I didn't have time to go to PetSmart. So then I haven't had time to go yet. So I've been out of treats for like the past day, and it's been a little bit harder to rein her in because that's what I usually use. So
Can I tell you what works with her?
no, you don't know what works with her. We've already been over this.
Those French toast, like rawhide things. I don't know what that is.
Well, that's a treat. That's a treat.
Well, but I don't let her. When I am working with her, it's fairly
Sit.
long, and so I hold it with my hand, and she'll follow me everywhere. She'll do all my commands, and then I'll let her bite on it a little bit, but then I take it back because I don't want her.
Sit.
I don't think they're that healthy to give
Right,
them the
not
whole thing.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
like,
but
I
I've
like
actually
last
told you I
week-
think this is a bad idea. I think this makes her think that you guys are playing. Because if you continue holding it, she thinks it's like a tug of war situation going on more than you
Well,
rewarding
think,
her
What do you think,
for doing a good job.
Boy, this is dangerous. Paul, why don't you answer this question? I'm getting between family members here.
No.
So I would start by trying what Leighton said. Use her if you've ran out of treats and you say you want to do a training session in the morning. Use her breakfast. You know, dogs will work when they're more hungry.
Good idea.
I mean, and then
Well, it was more
it's
for
worth it.
this specific type of a setting. Like if I
Okay.
had her bag of treats,
oh, I see.
I can like kind of rustle it to get her attention, and then she'll act much more obedient.
So that's actually a good point. Let's
Yeah.
talk about that for a second. So we call that, sometimes we refer to as bribery or bluffing.
Yeah.
That's a dangerous thing. That would be the equivalent of somebody saying to you, you know, hey, if you do this, then maybe I'll give you that. Well, when you don't get that, that kills the whole motivation behind it. So, you know, if you're going to treat the dog, treat the dog. If you're
Well,
not gonna
I
treat-
usually give her a treat. I would only
fine.
do the bluffing like right after she had already gotten one and was disobedient again. So to try to remind her there's future treats that are going to be coming.
Sure.
That's
So
what
there's two things you want to look at with this.
Sit.
And obviously, in a session like this, we have an hour or so. It's hard to compress, you know, weeks of training into that.
Right.
But generally, the way I want
This
you
is
to
just
look
our
at
first
that-
show.
Yeah.
This is our first.
Yeah,
We'll have
we
to
can
maybe
do a monthly
follow-up
show.
the next training
Yes.
session is
Yes.
the next show.
Yeah.
So two things from that. First of all, there's a time when you want to be absolutely consistent with the treat. So if you're teaching sit for the first time, the dog sits, you pay the dog. So that's the term we use for giving the treat, right? Then you walk forward, do another sit, dog pay the dog. Walk forward, do another sit. Once you've got that behavior established, then you can start going inconsistent, where you make them do one sit, and you say, good dog. Now that becomes the reward, no food. Walk forward, do another sit, good dog, second behavior, and then you pay on the third behavior. So a lot of times people say to their dogs, and I'm sure you guys have fallen into this trap, you'll say, sit, sit, sit. Now you've given that
Yes,
command
actually,
three
I have
times.
done it. Yes.
And
yes.
you say to yourself, then I would say to you as a trainer, so you think your dog didn't hear the sit the first two times? They had to wait for the third? No, what happened is that you reinforced the third. That was the sit or else, you know,
Yeah,
instruction.
the first two they were just giving you the middle paw, basically.
Yeah.
Read the paw, right?
Yes.
So the problem with that is you want to get back to being consistent, right? But there's times when I'll say to my dog, sit, and then I'll wait, like wait and wait, and then I'll pay the dog. So that's also fine. Now your last question of treats, they don't care what you give them. You can stop at McDonald's and get some burger for them and give them the patty out of the burger.
Now you had Leighton, when we were talking, you were trying to give me some tips for someone like me who, again, has had some difficult stories of how you can kind of establish your relationship with someone else's dog in case they haven't been well trained.
So I gotta
that.
compliment you on this, because when I brought that up earlier, I decided I wasn't going to go anywhere near that subject, because to talk live about something that's happened in your past is very difficult. And we as trainers have to be very careful digging in, because I could trigger something that is way greater. You know, I always used to, it's funny because we used to talk about cancer in the old days, not realizing cancer was such a significant thing, because, you know, back when I was a kid, you know, 30, 40 years ago, we didn't really know what cancer, I mean, we knew, but it wasn't common. But nowadays, everybody's exposed to it somewhere. You know, my dad's wife died of cancer here
About a year ago,
about a
yeah.
year ago. And so it's weird because,
Sad. Sorry.
you know, like it's in my head, so I've got to be very careful. And I mention that because what I'm going to answer now is something that we have to be very careful about getting into. So you've had a bad experience with a dog and possibly with more than one. That's a very common thing, and it's
More
a
than
very,
one? Okay, more than one. Okay.
and you will so sometimes an instructor like me will refer to you as somebody like you have a victim's complex, which is something that a dog will target. So if you walked into my daycare facility with me right now and there's 100 dogs running around,
It'll all come to me.
yeah, I wouldn't let you anywhere near those dogs because there would be half a dozen dogs in there that would target you specifically because they would read that off you. That's the scary
Oh,
side.
so they
we-
can feel it.
Oh
they
yeah.
feel that thing, yeah. And funnily enough, the first time I came across that was growing up on a ranch, as I talked about earlier on, with the cattle, where there'd be one cow that would attract attention from all the other cows. And one old boy one day, you know, as he was pulling out his rifle to shoot the cow, I'm like, why are you shooting that cow? He's not the bad one. The other ones are picking on him. He's like, nope, that's the victim. He used a different term, but that the term we use now, that's the victim. That's the one that attracts that attention. So you have to be careful. So the way we would teach you is we would give you another dog that would build your confidence. That dog would be somebody that's not likely to hurt you, that would absolutely not hurt you. And then we would give you a structured training session. So structure is what makes us better. You know, what makes people be able to talk in public? We deal with this all the time. You know, you can literally talk to anybody and their cousin within seconds, right? And clearly your kids have picked up on that.
Yes, they
Right?
both are that way. Yes.
So was it genetics that made them like that, or was it them being exposed to you and who you are that
And
made
me
them?
being exposed to my dad. My dad was that way.
Or your dad was like that. So we call that learned behavior. So in your case, we would learn behavior. We would teach you how to handle that, right? And then we'd do it step by step, using a small dog first so that there's no fear of that. And I could eventually get to the point of handling a big, powerful Belgian Malinois like mine, and then that would empower you to do that. But it has to be done by somebody that knows what they're doing, because the difference between being a successful training session and falling off the mountain is about 1/4 of an inch, you know? And as I'm saying this, I'm watching your reaction and your eyes and your behavior, because that tells me how deep I can go before I get in trouble.
And I encourage anybody who's in your position to, you know, try to make that step to get comfortable with training a dog again, because she has brought so much happiness back into my life. I forgot how much joy dogs bring you on the daily. Because I always grew up, we always had a bunch of dogs, and then they all passed away. Puka said they all passed away around 2019. So went a couple years without any dogs, and I did not realize how much of a difference it makes on your day to day. How much joy!
true.
I'm so much happier every day when I come home and I see her, or if I'm working in the studio working on music, she's there to keep me company. So
So did she ride in the front seat of your car?
I put her in the back seat. She
Did she have a seatbelt?
I actually have not been putting a
Good
seatbelt on, or
question.
should I?
they have a seatbelt
So
on?
if you've got a
Yeah.
dog loose in the car, they've got to be either with a harness. So these are the hard questions, you see, because
Oh,
you can
okay.
see how he went into like slight defense mode, and that's good because now you're going to be thinking about that. That's all I want. Because I don't want this dog becoming a 80-mile-an-hour missile coming forward in the car if you slam on brakes. Right?
Yeah.
Likewise, I also want her to be safe because there's no way she can restrain herself in the back of a car or in front of a car. You can ask
So you
Sarah.
just put the
Oh
seatbelt
yeah,
around
Layton's
her?
always on me.
No, you have a special harness that
It's a
you get
special
for
dog.
her.
Yeah.
So you have
Seatbelt
an
thing.
attachment that you put on your seatbelt. So you pull the seatbelt down so the little ratchet catches it and you run it back and then it locks it into position.
Oh.
And then that way she has a little freedom. She can move around in the back seat.
We need to get.
But she
But
can't
it's
come
attached
forward.
to her harness. Yeah.
Oh, we
And
need
then
to get
that way
that
you're
in.
also
Hay
safe.
harness.
You know, if you do have any kind of an accident, and just think of that as a missile that's coming forward.
He's right.
You know?
I
Yes.
would say I try to not drive with her as much as possible to
Right.
try to reduce any
Sure.
chance of that, but I should still get the seatbelt harness for her when I do have to take her in the car. That's a
Billy
great
Shelley
idea.
goes in the car to go to the vet.
Yeah.
Right. Well, but
So-
she's here today. She didn't
Actually,
walk.
Alice Cooper's
Yeah.
vet. So,
Right.
so we met because of Alice and Cheryl Cooper. He trained Chet. Are you listening?
So he's sitting thinking about the harness and about his car right now. So
What? No,
I was trying to keep Puka. I was trying to keep her attention.
How about this?
Say?
Can you just take her leash off and let her loose? She's not going to do anything wrong.
No, because I'm working on keeping her attention right now, and she's a very inquisitive, high energy dog.
Let's
And
see
so
what she
you-
does. I want to play with her.
I know she's gonna run around and wander. That's what she wants to do.
Okay,
and right
let-
now we're trying to work on keeping her
Can we let her
attention.
do tests, please?
No, see, this is why. This is a great sample of why
So
she
this
is
one-
not well trained.
You two need to be.
Layton has his
I try
work
to
cut out
focus
for him.
on keeping her attention, and she goes, "Let her loose. Let her."
So Kinga, I'm going to take Chet's side here. So
Yeah.
no, we don't want to walk
okay,
around. And the
okay.
reason is because if you, so let's say you had a small child here, would you say the same thing? Let's say the kid wanted to walk out the door and go check around outside.
No,
Well, why not?
because it's unsafe.
Yeah.
So-
So That's the same.
Okay.
That's how you need to apply. So better,
Well, I
more
guess that's
control
true.
is better than
Okay.
less control.
Yeah, until she's well trained. Once she's well trained, then we can say let her
Yeah,
loose.
then
I
you
guess
put
you
it-
don't want
so
her
this is
chewing
what
on
you
the,
would
on
do.
the cords or something.
So we
Yes.
talked about the commands. He'll sit down, stay. I think we talked about stay.
Sit.
The last command I want you to teach your dog, which is actually one of the first commands we teach, so I shouldn't say last, is place. Place training your dog. So
What's
place
that?
means
so such a
it's
useful
basically
command.
means go sit in your chair.
Oh,
the
Chet,
dog.
listen to that.
So you would have a place at home, and you might have 3 places at home: kitchen,
We have
family
one in
room,
every
bedroom.
room. basically.
Yeah, we
One in
literally-
every room is smart.
And when
That
we
is
sit out on the
smart.
It's a
patio,
little
we'll
much,
move
but-
one of the dog beds outside,
Yeah.
especially for my Mal, because my Mal wants to do 100. My Mal is the Porsche version of a dog,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we refer to them as Ferraris. So we'll put a bed outside, and the instant I put the bed down, my dog will go lay on the bed and say, "Okay, fine, I'll lie here." So that's what I would do with her. So you can come to your show, you put a little bed in the
Oh,
back here,
that's a
and you
great
put it
idea.
downstairs. And then for the 2 hours you're doing a show, she can do it downstairs for 2 hours, easy.
Interesting. So we'll bring a dog bed for next time you're here. That'll be fun.
And I'm glad we brought this part up because she basically has a place that she stays, and I haven't been using that command. I just say stay, but I'm gonna start saying place. She likes to sit at the top of my stairs, like if I have to go and do something else throughout the house. I'll say sit and stay. But now I know to use place instead.
Sure.
Now
That's a really
it'll be
good
her
one.
place.
Yeah.
Sit and stay to establish the place command, but that would be it. So here's a question for you. So if you walk out the door and you wanted to stay inside, what do you say to her?
Wait, say that again?
If I walked out and I
So
wanted
let's
her to
say you
stay,
walked out the door to go outside.
I want her to stay where she was, I would just say stay,
Okay.
stay.
And so let's say you're walking through to the kitchen and you want to make dinner or something, and what do you tell her then?
I would do the same
Dog
thing.
bed. No,
sit,
no,
stay.
no.
Yeah.
No, there you
So
tell her to go in
you
that dog
realize
bed.
that there's 2
So-
completely different versions of the same command.
Yeah, that's probably confusing for her. That's why I should
Right.
switch it to place.
Correct. So we
Yeah.
want commands to be specific things,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And stay, just like the word no. So lots of times when we as a school, we get a dog that comes in and the people are using the word no, and the dog's like, "Oh, I've heard that 5 million times, not going to listen to it."
Well,
Also-
Rachel, I love Rachel so much, but I know that she just says no to everything she's doing. Well, she doesn't know what specific thing she's doing wrong.
Right.
Correct?
Yes, probably.
We'd have to see.
We'd have
We'll
to
have
see.
to have Rachel on.
And
Yeah,
I'm
She's
super
busy.
a-
Have
careful
to
of
see, yeah.
picking
Yeah,
on
we'll
people's
have to see.
kids when the kids are not present to defend themselves.
Yes.
You
Yeah,
know.
she needs to. She'll be on the show.
Full
yes.
disclaimers.
I've been there long enough. I understand these things. But we joke about these disclaimers. But the truth actually is that you have to manage families. You can't. For me to sit here, I can say, and Chet's awesome because he's comfortable being corrected and being taught, trained, whatever. But a lot of people are not. And
He's easy to
especially
teach.
kids. He is easy to teach, but he understands. I said this, you're analytical, you're paying attention. You're realizing that this information is going to help you. I'm not sitting here judging you. I'm not saying, geez, what's all this dog hair on your shirt? You're like, dude,
His
don't
fur
care.
coat.
Now, he probably cares. He's thinking, camera, dog hair.
I'm proud of the dog hair. It's a sign I have a cute foosball.
Hashtag dog
But
dad.
managing families is as important as teaching them, and this is something that people often forget. You have these Thanksgivings and you have 10. We just had a huge Thanksgiving at our house. Poor Sarah, I don't know how she got through that, but my brother came over from South Africa. My dad it's the first time in our lives that all the men in our family were together.
It was
Aw.
awesome. It just was a
And-
lot of people.
And
It
ahead
was
of that,
great. It was
I had to talk to each one of my brothers and say, okay, here the rules are. I don't want to hear about this person's wife or that person's kid or this person's this. Leave those subjects alone. And my brother likes to do his own thing and not listen to anything. I'm the eldest, but doesn't
Bless
really
his
matter.
heart, yeah.
And then, I'd be somewhere and I'd hear them talking about stuff and I'd be like, hey, remember we had this conversation. But we got through a week, again, following the rules. So that's what you have to apply as well. Don't pick on, and one of the things you guys have to watch, you're very comfortable criticizing each other, but you can't do that unless it's done in a positive manner.
Well, I love that
Well,
you're
and
saying
one
that.
constructive criticism that
Okay.
I've given Rachel multiple times with Puka is Puka's a very reflective dog. Whatever energy you give her, she gives back. And Rachel loves to hype her up and
Right.
make her go crazy.
Which is
and then
cute.
and then she'll be complaining to me. She'll be like, she's so high energy and running all over the place. I'm like, well, you literally just were yelling and screaming and throwing the ball for her. Of course she's a puppy.
Not
She's
yelling.
gonna
Rachel
Oh,
talks
no.
in a high pitched voice. She goes, oh,
Yeah, that's
High pitch.
okay, that's gonna hype a puppy up, exactly.
Right, so you've got brother sibling, brother sister sibling,
Yes.
a rivalry, whatever. And then she's high drive. Rachel is, I'm assuming, based on what you're telling.
No,
So-
she's not high drive. She's
Well,
not high
she's
drive.
revving the dog up.
Well, no, it's hard to she's very stubborn, which I guess would be high drive. Yeah.
Wait. We need to have Rachel on the show. But
Yeah.
I will say, we need to
And
have Rachel on the show.
we'll bring Pistol and let her work Pistol because then that might match her
Oh,
personality.
okay.
And he is, because he's had an extent. I mean, he's had.
Is that the one that attacks like the
Yeah,
fake
the
arm?
protection dog. Yeah.
We're back to the biting. So we won't be doing any biting that day. But just understand that bite training is
over
done
here.
under very, very controlled conditions. And we are very selective of the dogs we taught. They have to pass very, very stringent tests before we will teach them how to engage or how to do bite work.
But when they're doing that, aren't they being like police dogs? You're training them for like to be a police dog?
That
or
dog's trained
military
way
dog?
higher than any police dog.
Yeah, they're not
that,
being
that dog's got
aggressive,
$50,000 of training put
it's a
into
training,
him
yeah.
to reach what you're talking about. And there's
Wow.
some dogs that have had even more than that. You know,
So-
the French ring competition dogs,
Wow.
which is even higher than that. They can switch on, switch off at a drop of a hat. But they are, again, I'm going to use the Porsche example. That's because that car is designed to go fast. It was designed to be on a track. It's designed to handle, brake, etc. So Belgian Malinois and dogs like that are the same. They're not a good
Right.
pet because you have to, you know, if I didn't give my dog attention, we were away the other day for a few days and the dogs stayed in the kennel. When we
Yeah,
came
2
home,
nights we were gone.
he was wired for about 2 days. So we were only gone for 2 days. You
Yeah.
know, it's just, it takes time to build off that energy. However, that said, you could do that. So you could take Rachel and put him next to her and give her 10 minutes of training, and we can do that. And then she'll handle that dog because he understands all the commands. You understand?
Right.
You could even have a situation where I could attack her and he would protect Rachel by biting me.
Really?
Again, it's a trained behavior.
And they don't take that personal. Like our last Belgian Malinois, I've actually taken bites. I put on the bottom piece of a suit and had him do the bite training with me that he was trained to do. And you know, you could see it in his face. He's like, "But this is my mom. Like, what's happening?" But he's doing a job, so he just got to do it. But he doesn't think like, "Oh, my poor mom." It's like he was told to go and attack, and that's his job. So
Just following orders.
yeah,
Well,
exactly.
and it's fun. It's a game team.
Well,
It's not
I was
personal.
scared to be. I mean,
You
the
know-
name's Pistol. I was scared of being around Pistol, knowing that that's what Pistol can
Didn't
do.
you say you wanted me to dress you up in the suit?
Yeah, aren't you gonna do it? Be in the suit next episode? No, I'm just
But we'll let
kidding.
Chet do it.
You know,
No, I'm okay.
It's very interesting listening to all of this. I'm
Pearl can
thinking,
do it.
yes,
Yeah.
that would be.
Can we put the arm
not a
on you
wise
and let her
decision.
attack your arm?
Are you trying to traumatize her? I thought she's your friend. Why are you having an evil maniacal laugh?
Don't you think that would solve her issues and she won't be scared anymore?
Not
No,
No.
no, according.
It's like being like, are you scared of heights?
Structured
Jump off
training.
this building.
I
That'd
don't
be-
think that's like taking me from 0 to 100 and being surprised and I'm in shock
Yeah.
afterwards.
So just to address that on a serious
Okay.
side, there are lots of people that have experienced really bad emotional, attacks, spousal situations or domestic situations that buy trained protection dogs from us or from other people.
Oh, okay.
And they are, in a similar way, they have a lot of PTSD, they have a lot of emotional distress and so on. And once those dogs actually start working for them, it empowers them more than anything in the world. They don't have to learn. I'm pro-gun, obviously, because I shoot competitively, but they don't have to learn
Really
how to do
quickly,
it.
you need to quickly tell us what you do with that.
He just said he shoots competitively,
But I mean-
which means it takes part in competition where you see how accurate you can be. It's
Right.
basically the sporting side of guns, which is why it's awesome people have the right to do that.
Right. But you don't have to teach this. I'm just talking about this case. I don't have to teach her how to handle a gun because the dog is going to protect her. Now, as long as it's correctly trained appropriately, like a dog that bites somebody because they're in the vicinity, that's not protection, etc. We can talk about that another time.
Yes.
So that was where I was curious: is what type of dog would you suggest for someone like me who,
That's a good question.
you know,
Any of the smaller breeds, any of the toy breeds, this is a good dog for you.
A golden
Labradors
retriever.
are great dogs. Bichons, I mean, you're more breed knowledgeable than
She
I
would
am.
be great with a dog like Maddie, who just my little dog. He just chill. He's older. He just
doesn't
wants to
yap, does
sleep.
he?
He just takes up space and
I mean,
breathes oxygen. That's about
Yeah, he literally sleeps, eats, and goes outside to go to the bathroom. But he's just very chill and just
Loving.
yeah.
Loving.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the other thing to remember, which Chet actually touched on a little bit as well, is that how much his dog has brought him so much love and so much joy. It literally changes the way that you think. That would be a huge factor for you. You've got this built up, I'm going to say baggage, because in your head it feels like baggage, right? It weighs you down. And you'll realize shortly that dog doesn't care about any of that. That little dog just loves you for you. And it doesn't take long for that actually to change your mindset, which is really what you...
Yeah, you can be having the worst day ever. And when you get home and you see their tail wagging and that excitement for them to see you, you forget about all that bad shit that happened. It's crazy how that works. And, you know, you're going to take care of those problems later. But that little vacation from your problem, every time you get to say hi to your dog, it really does change your life.
Yeah.
So it's really cute when I go to see Chet and Rachel and I visit the house, and then I can hear Puka, so I'll call her. Well, I don't know that he's had her on stay, so she'll just be disobedient and she'll come down the stairs and come to greet me, and then of course that's where Chet will be scolding her, and then she kind of comes to me like, "Oh, Granny, save me."
So the next time that happens, what Chet's going to do, he's going to say, "Here, Mom, here's the leash. Let's bring her to heel, put her in a sit, and then you pet her in a controlled condition."
Okay.
Make sense?
Yes.
And remember that actually is happier for the dog.
This is exactly what I've been saying we need to do. I've been saying that you need to let me know when you're coming over to my side to say hi to her, so that way I can actually tell her to stay. And then once you come over, I'll tell her to come, sit, and then you pet her. That's how it should be done. Instead of you surprising us, and then she's just loose, basically hanging out in her place with no commands. And then she goes down the stairs and thinks she's able to because you just snuck up on her.
Well, I don't live there, so when I don't, if I haven't seen her for a day and a half, I miss her.
Yeah, but you should let me know that you're coming to say hi to her.
But maybe she doesn't want to let you know. Maybe she wants to see hey.
Well, while we're in the training process, it's important that we...
So I'm going to add one thing to that. So
Okay.
when you do that, I like that idea. So you shoot him a text message when you're 5 minutes out. Say, "Hey, I'm 5 minutes out."
That's
then
smart.
he meets you at the door, but here's the change. You're not actually going to walk into the house. You're going to literally meet at the door, and then you're going to say, "Hey, Mom, we're going for a walk." She's already at heel.
Oh.
Not Mom is at heel, but the dog is at heel. Then you put your mom next to you, and as you start walking down the road, you give her the leash, and you just walk that. Instead of correcting or punishing the energy, I want you to channel that energy. It sounds cool to say that.
That's smart,
But it is
because
what it
when
is.
she's walking,
You channel that energy towards walking down the street, and then that way, that will become the way that your dog sees your mom arriving. Make sense?
That's
And
smart.
it's very easy to do.
that's a great idea.
Maybe we should practice that. Did you guys want to do some leash work?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
sure.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, we only have a couple minutes left, so we don't have time to do it right now.
Okay,
We only have
Maybe
3
next
minutes
one.
left. So one question I have in review, because it was a great tip that you shouldn't, keep the pressure on the leash. It's better to do a tug when they're going the wrong direction and let them have some slack. Are there any other misconceptions with dog trainings or dog commands that people are doing wrong that they think are doing right, and what are they?
Tons.
Yeah.
So I'm going to
There's
add
probably a
one
big
step
one that's on
before
your
that.
mind.
So
Yeah.
before we're going to use the leash correction because we were already in a position of having to take control, right? But remember that the way we want you to do that is we want you to take your treat and teach your dog to walk at heel using the pay system, right? Walk at heel, here's your pay. Walk at heel, here's your pay. Then you start using the leash. So the leash is like a secondary step. So that's one of the misconceptions. And then the other thing is people often think it's about how hard a correction is before the dog listens, and it's not at all. It's about building that relationship with your dog, building in a positive way. You can use a little bit of
And the
correction.
consistency too,
Consistency
probably.
as well.
Well,
Yeah.
the close thing that you mentioned, I think, is one of the most important things. Can you tell Chet
The which?
describe that? Remember how you said it's her birthday today?
Oh, the jumping
Sarah,
stuff?
yes, because Sarah's wearing this gorgeous dress. Because I have noticed that most everybody in the household will let Puka jump if they're wearing something casual, but then if they're dressed up, stay out,
Right.
stay out.
That's
Can
a
you talk
common
about that?
problem.
That's a
So
great
inconsistency,
question. Yeah.
right? So imagine one day you arrive home and you're all dressed up because you have business meetings and so forth. You have a suit on, or ladies have leggings or a dress or skirt or whatever the case is, and then they don't want the dog jumping. And so when the dog jumps on them, they yell at the dogs, they get off me, get off me, get off. And the dog just sees that as energy. They don't really pay that much attention. They're not really that scared of you. The next day you show up and you've been out running, working out or whatever, and you show up, it's like, oh, that's fine, like you're wearing a t-shirt, you don't care if the dog jumps on you, had her on your lap just now. Well, now you don't punish that, and that to the dog is inconsistent. So one day they're not quite sure. You'll actually see it. We as trainers will see that. If I'm at somebody's home, we'll the wife will have me there, and then the husband will come home, and the moment the husband walks in the house, the dog takes this cautious approach. And I'm like, all right, we're going to change this. Whatever's going on, this is going to change. So that's definitely a second one.
So I'm very consistent with the no jumping thing, but one question I have is, after she'll jump on somebody, I will tell her no, a bad dog. And then to discipline her, I'll put her in her pen because she doesn't like being in there. She
Yeah.
wants
And I
to be
think that's
out.
wrong because
So
she
And then
doesn't.
she'll let her out, which will break the consistency of trying to use that as a discipline mechanism.
Well, because I haven't
Do you
seen her in
think-
2 days, and I'm showing up, or in a
Sure.
day and a
But
half.
she's jumping on people's outfits. We
And
have
she's
to
been
put
in-
her somewhere
and she's been in
because
there
she's
20
ruining their
minutes.
outfits.
She doesn't
Oh,
know.
okay.
She doesn't know
Welcome
that she
to
does that about
reality,
20 minutes
guys.
later.
Yeah, that's
So
a
the
tough
reality
question,
is,
actually.
what you're talking about is you're allowing the dog to get deep into being in trouble
Mm.
before you establish your foundation. So we back to that foundation. So the first thing is we don't punish the dog by putting him in a crate or a pen. As
Thank
said.
you. Okay, high five.
Hold on.
That's fine.
I'm glad we covered this.
Hold
I'm glad we
on.
covered this.
I feel like there's a however.
Yeah.
Except you don't want the dog to be out of control at any time, because when they get out of control and they do what they think is normal dog stuff, then you as a human don't accept that. So I want you to dial that all the way back. So you don't. So think of it as kids, right? So when they were kids,
Well, exactly,
growing
and
up-
I think jumping is definition of her being out of control. That's the number one thing I'm trying to get her to stop doing right now.
But
So
wait till she snags one of Megan's silk outfits.
that's
she had on.
exactly why I put her in the pen when she goes out of control,
No,
which
that doesn't